Welcome, Chris, to the Biohacker Babes podcast. We're so happy to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We are diving into a topic we have not exclusively talked about on the podcast, but our audience is very aware that we are trying to clean up our environment, things that we put on our bodies. You know, we've done all the things almost. We know our clothes can contain toxic chemicals, and we know our skin is our largest organ. Like, we know these things, and then there's a but. Right. We've already cleaned up our kitchen. We've cleaned up our skincare. We avoid drinking and eating out of plastic, but we're still putting it on our bodies. And so I would love to kick off, Chris, with when it comes to our health, what have we sacrificed for the clothes that we want to wear?
Well, I've been in the apparel industry for over 30 years. So I've worked for a lot of big brands. I've seen, how products are made at the lowest levels, from the farms all the way up through the stores. And I can tell you that, our entire apparel supply chain is built from one thing, which is low cost. And low cost is about how do you give people the most value for the lowest price, right? And so what's happened in the last 30 years is we made a big shift from overall textiles in our industry being primarily natural, cotton, wool, linen, hemp, right? To in the last 30 years, well, even since 1990, we've gone from roughly 35% of the market being synthetic materials, polyester, nylon, spandex, to almost 70% of the market in less than 25 years. And there's this huge shift to synthetics has been a lot for cost and for good reason. People want to pay less. And overall, people don't realize that in our industry that textiles have only gone up in 25 years, roughly 8% in price, where the total global cost of goods has gone up 150% in the rest of the world. So we've suppressed cost down in a lot of different ways. Part of it through, outsourcing around the world, but also through using materials that cost less. Materials drive about 2/3 of the cost of your product. So this huge shift to plastic that happened over the last 25 years was driven by marketing, better performance, quick dry, wrinkle free, water resistant, right? All of these things that we've been sold and that sold and being from the industry, that works. And so people want to sell more for less, right? And so that is the economics of why now 70% of the market is plastic-based materials. And it's a really hard thing to change because people are convinced that you need plastic coated in chemicals to have performance. And so this is, it's starting to run into a very hard new reality, is that people also want to be healthy and they want to be disease free and they want to have a holistic, toxic free environment. And these two things are now in direct conflict. And I didn't even realize 5 years ago how bad the problem was, but it's bad. And one of the biggest misnomers is people think, oh yeah, plastic is bad, right? Straws, in my, my microplastics in the water, all that's bad. And this is for sure a problem with polyester and nylon. However, what's really bad is the chemicals that go on the plastic to make it turn colors, to make it quick dry, to make it soft. All of these things are the things that we're trying to avoid everywhere else, which are PFAS, BPAs, BPS, phthalates are the main way you make plastic soft. So all of these things that we want and like are actually being done in things and chemicals we don't want. And so this is sort of the conflict that's happening in our world, is how do you start to rectify what is performance and comfort? I need plastics and chemicals, or can I do it clean and natural? And the real misnomer is that today the world sees natural and performance as two completely separate things. Sure. And they really don't have to be. And there's actually a third way. And that's kind of where we come in. We see the third way, and we see it more aligned with what consumers want and where they're going.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, I guess just like the history of where clothing has gone, I don't know if my perspective is what's actually happening, but like we were born in the mid 80s, and I feel like in the 90s, we all wore like Old Navy, Gap, that kind of stuff. Like now I feel like everyone is in Viore and Lululemon and all these brands. Is that what's actually happening, or am I just seeing that with the people around me? Has there been
Yeah,
a
no.
huge shift in wanting to live in athleisure, I guess, is the question.
Yeah. So from a market perspective, what's happened since the mid '90s is, a lot of big brands emerged out of this shift towards performance. And like you think about Under Armour, it came out of with cotton is the enemy. You came out
Yeah.
with this huge shift to yoga wear and athleisure, fast fashion, all of these things. They drove an enormous amount of growth in the synthetic plastic market because we need the performance. We also want lots of cheap fashion. And all of these things perpetuated that 35% of the market in 1990 to now almost 70% of the fiber market being plastic in 2025. So that is a real commercial shift. And like anything, the consumer drives the trend, right? And so we bought into these big brands. We bought into these ideas of performance. And I always joke, if you go back and look at Tiger Woods in 1990s, he's wearing cotton, before Nike. All these guys,
and he was performing just fine, right?
It wasn't a thing, everybody wasn't wearing leggings, they were wearing sweats, right? And so we just bought in heavy, and it gave rise to Lululemon and Aloe and all these things, but even Shein and H&M and all these brands that were driving lots of volume at a low price were all using synthetics as the backbone for those businesses.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. It really is a volume thing. You initially said like we want value for the money that we're spending, but I think people really value is volume. People want a lot for spending so little. And you've made great points in other conversations. I'm sure we'll talk about it today, but it's like, can we actually invest in the thing that's going to hang around for a while rather than this quick fashion, which I think that applies to everything in the health industry. In a lot of ways. Can we invest in our future? It may be a little bit more upfront, but we're not big advocates of Trader Joe's. It's like, can you actually get the real regenerative food that comes from this earth, not something that's quick and easy?
Yeah, and I think we've been victims of convenience, right? Convenience and having easy access. So, why do natural materials cost more? Well, because someone has to grow them, and and they have to be harvested. And, it's not a matter of just turning the plastic spigot on and just making more, right? And so there's just a difference. And what you want to understand is the true cost, right? So you should be the most, sort of scrutinous of things that are really inexpensive in text. Like the $20 t-shirt, beware, right? Because these are probably being made in ways that you would not be aligned with your health.
But we go, look, $20 t-shirt. How exciting.
Yeah. Right.
Like I see billboards in Vegas, like $5.99 for a steak. I'm like, oh, that's what kind of steak is that? Yeah. So same with food, same with clothing. The cheaper, the scarier it is.
Yeah. Well, and so it's not to say all things cheap or bad, but there is a, like, how does that price the way it is? And so real merino wool, costs more, right? And really nice merino wool costs a lot more. But you buy those things with the idea that they're going to last. And, I often have good conversations with people about how natural materials aren't as durable and they don't quite do the same thing as polyester. And it's true that there's things that synthetics can do that are incredibly impressive, like durability wise. But back, in the 1940s, when they were making car tires, they used to use Supima cotton for the inner walls of the tires. And so that was before, everything went petroleum. And so it's not entirely true. And so we use Supima cotton in our products, but for the idea that it's quality, it feels really nice, but it also takes color really well. And so it has all these sort of these attributes that are really nice, but it does cost twice as much as regular cotton, right? And so not everybody cares for that, but there is a way of doing quality, but it's not always going to be quantity.
Yeah. So before we go and like scare everybody and say, like I told you before we started recording, I filled up a trash bag this morning of clothing that I'm like, I know I needed to get rid of. We don't want people to go turn their lives upside down or be stressed about what they're wearing. So if we were to maybe make a priority list, are we looking at the things that are closest to our skin and maybe like places that sweat? So like the genital area, armpits, do you consider those like high priority if we are going to even get started? Let's say we have nothing in our home that is non-toxic. Where do we start?
Well, I think you should think about risk through the lens of you wear it the most amount of hours on your body.
Mm-hmm.
So you're wearing it like 8, 12, 23 half hours a day. Think about your underwear, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
You should ask yourself, are you wearing it in times where you're creating heat, friction, and moisture? So you're exercising or you're maybe you're a hot sleeper, right? But if you're sweating in things, that can be a risk. If you're wearing things tight against the body, okay, it also creates more risk, particularly in the most sensitive parts of your body, right? It's often like where you sweat the most. So armpits, neck, genitals, even chest. These are things that are the most porous part of your skin. And so why does that matter? Well, so the studies that have been done on synthetic materials coated in a performance solvent, like a flame retardant, for instance, very toxic. What it's shown is that when heat, friction, and moisture are on the body, these fabrics and the solvents are activated and they release with the heat, friction, and moisture, and they become bioactive and they go into your sweat. And when you're heat, friction, moisture, your blood vessels are the most open, right? And so you're the most likely to sort of take these back into your body. And there's certain chemicals like a PFAS, right? We all know PFAS is bad, right? So PFAS, there's a lot of PFASs that are their molecular structure is so small, they do go back into your bloodstream. About anywhere between 15 to 16% of PFASs get into your bloodstream that are on your act. And so quick dry, right? All these things that we see in our activewear often have these things in it. And so people say, well, just eliminate the PFAS, or that must be something that, is illegal or whatever. Well, there's like somewhere between 9,000 to 12,000 different kinds of PFAS out there.
Holy cow.
And so
so when it says PFAS free, it could be just a few types, not all the types.
It's a lot of combinations of chemicals. There's over 150,000 chemicals that have been created since the 1950s, and less than 10,000 of those chemicals have been rigorously really tested for risks in the body. So most of the things we just don't know about, right? Sure. And so, but when you get into PFAS, which we all know is bad, right? Everybody's sort of aware of that. The reason there's so many of them, because they're all designed for very specific functions. But they're also designed to avoid regulation. So if this one is illegal, I'll just change the chemical structure slightly, and then that will be within tolerance. And so if I go back to the original thing, is what is the risk of all this? Is that you don't really know what's in these chemicals that are in your synthetic clothing and the dyes that are put on and the solvents that are coated in them. You just don't really know because you don't have to report it. Okay. The only way you can know is if someone tests it. And most are not tested. Less than like 5% of the market is actually tested. So what you want to avoid is synthetic plastics coated in chemicals on your body when you're creating heat, friction, and moisture, because that is when you're the most vulnerable. And so that is the baseline of a lot of this. And then beyond that,
quick question about the regulations and like changing this to get around that. Is this just a problem in the United States, or is this worldwide?
Well, the global supply chain for apparel is global, right? So it is everywhere, but the regulations are not. So in Europe, there's roughly 1,300 chemicals in textiles that are banned or restricted. All right. 1,300. In Canada, it's like 457. 457 are banned or restricted. In the United States, it's less than 11.
How did they even pick those 11? That seems so crazy.
Well, in the US, like things that are getting regulated have a lot to do with who has influence on government, right? So if there's a strong lobbyist, you want that number to be very low in terms of what is actually banned or restricted. Where in Europe, where they tend to be the leaders in this, they tend to be the most protective for their markets. And so in the US, it's largely free for all in terms of what chemicals can be put into textiles. And as I mentioned, less than 5% are really tested and certifiably clean. So you just don't know. And so what you have to start to do as a consumer is start to assume, generally these things are probably not good for me. And then I could look for other things that are probably would be less of a risk. And if you're really reducing, your toxic load, you have to look at your apparel because, 35% of the total PFAS global demand is in textiles. So
awesome.
it's a big amount, and we just don't know. And we all know that, that once it's really doesn't go away. They're designed to last forever, right? So these are the things where I'm not trying to scare people as much as just be very aware of in the apparel industry. If it's less than 2% of the content in the product, you don't have to list it on any label. Okay. And so most chemicals are going to fit into that category. And so the only way is if people voluntarily test and report their materials. And so we do that. It's also more expensive, but it is one way to know, right? And there are some gold standards out there for testing in different textiles, but most just don't want to pay for it or don't want people to really know. And, like anything, transparency, often is the catalyst for change, right? And so these are the things, if people had to really label everything that was in their clothing, people would probably see it differently.
Yeah.
Like smoking. It's going to be like the new.
At some point, hopefully, right?
I think, doing hot yoga in synthetic materials is like smoking.
Oh.
And I think the inherent problem there, it's not that people don't know, that people have started to hear about plastics and PFAS, but I think people think I'm sweating it all out. They think it's a one-way path. But you're saying,
oh, really?
Don't you think? I'm just assuming that. I don't know that I've heard that someone say that explicitly, but I think people think I'm doing my body good by sweating it out, and they're not thinking about opening a pathway for things to come back in. That's pretty scary.
Well, I think that's the irony of all this is that a lot of us are doing activities in these types of products for our health and for our fitness.
Right.
But at the same time being undermined by what we're wearing, doing it. And so, I think the point of what we're doing is it doesn't have to be this way. There are other ways if people are aware. And I do think it starts with consumers demanding alternatives. And, the rise that came to a lot of these brands over the last 25 years could also lead to a rise of a lot of new brands and new companies who can offer cleaner, better for you products. And so I'm a big believer that we're shifting into the third way, which is what I call biomaterials, which are taking bio-based sources, so often waste, and repurposing them into new fibers and textiles with new benefits and often done sustainably. And these biomaterials are seen as sometimes as, well, if it's not cotton wool, linen or hemp, well, then it can't probably be natural. And so it's either plastic or it's these, 4 or 5 things. And there is a third way. And so, that is kind of the world that we're shining a light on, is it's not all bad news. And there's a lot of opportunities and innovation happening that the market, I think, is going to want, as there's a really big shift to your overall health and wellness, low tox living, and doing biohacking in a way that sometimes the best biohack is just taking this stuff out.
Yes.
Right. Of your system.
Less is more. Yeah. We're not trying to add more things that your system has to process. So I think part of that shift really relies on education, like knowing what we're buying, how to buy. So knowing what materials may be more natural or bio. Tell me the word you said again. Just biomaterials.
Yeah. So
versus synthetics like a polyester, elastane, the things that are, buttery soft is really popular in that athleisure right now. Like it feels good, but what the hell is it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's called plasticizers, and they make it soft, and they make it durable, and they make it
Wow.
smooth, and they also come with phthalates. So that's how you make plastic soft. Plastic's not inherently soft. It's you need these
Mhm.
chemicals to make it, and then once you turn it a color, that requires azose dyes, which are the most toxic dyes to turn that plastic a color. So these are things, again, back to the chemicals is really the worst part of all of this. And so how do you get to a
Yeah.
place where things are chemically clean or chemically safe? It's on you because the US government's not doing it. The
Yeah.
brands aren't really showing you the truth in terms of what's in it. And so how do you move to things that are going to be less risk, but also have comfort and performance, all these things? So we call this space biomaterials. And if some people might know Tencel, right? So Tencel is a biomaterial. It's a bio-based fiber that is often made from like eucalyptus trees or bamboo, and it's regenerated into a new fiber, but its origins are bio, right? But it's being regenerated into altogether new fiber, and then combined with all kinds of things. It gets combined with wool and cotton, but it also gets combined with polyester and nylon, unfortunately. But it is a bio-based material, and so there are other bio-based materials happening. And what's beautiful about it is often it's waste positive. So you're taking things from nature, repurposing it, but then you can regenerate it into something altogether new that is bio-based and safe, but can also have new properties and new benefits. And so is it exactly like plastic? No. Can it do other things? Yes. And so this is an interesting space because this is where all the innovation is in the current textile world. And so at HyperNatural, we've basically come up with our own bio-based fiber called Hyper-Cool Jade, and it allows you to cool the skin. It's antibacterial, but we're using crab shells and chitin to make it antibacterial, and we're using jade stone to cool the skin. And the technology just makes it so small that it stays in the fiber, and it doesn't require a topical chemical to give you these benefits, which is typically how it's solved, right? And so that is biomaterials. Biomaterials allows you to create something new with a lot of natural things. And the process does use chemicals, which people often say, oh, it does use chemicals. But then you can recycle those chemicals, and you can also certify when you're done that it's chemically safe, which is what we do. So at the end of the day, the process is the process, but what is the end result? Does it pass OEKO-TEX 100 certification? Did you use Blue Sign dyes to make it safe, or GOTS approved dyes if it's cotton? These are all certifications that tell you that it's chemically safe, which is most of the population doesn't know what these things are.
No, I think those are relatively new terms for a lot of people. And one, I had never heard of the dye one. Can you share more
Blue
about
Sign?
that? Yeah, that's new to me.
So dyes tend to be the most toxic part of apparel. So there's a Blue Sign system. It's a proof system of using safe dye stuffs, how the chemicals are basically what happens after they're used, because a lot of times people dump dyes into rivers and things like that. So this is a Blue Sign system that says everything was done in a certified, clean, and safe way.
Both blue, in terms like the color?
Blue as the color. Blue and sign.
Okay.
SINE or sign like a road sign?
Sign like stop sign.
Like a stop sign. Blue sign. Huh. Got it.
So and some of these things are.
Do any of those come out when you wash your clothes in the washing machine?
The jade stone crab shells?
Oh no, like any of the chemicals from the dyes. Not from HyperNatural, I mean from like another toxic company.
100%. So when they tell you something lasts 30 washes, okay, it's because it's coming out bit by bit by bit.
Oh, and then
so that's is it safer after 30 washes, or it's still bad?
It looks bad.
Vintage might be better, but the thing is, you don't know what's in these things, and so I would say the way to look at it like this is that most performance today is plastic. Most performance attributes like quick dry, stain resistance, wrinkle free, all that is coming from a chemical that's applied on top of the plastic. and the plastic is made soft with other chemicals. So it's a layered cake of chemicals on top of plastic. Then you wash it and you wash it and you wash it and you work out and you work out. And then these things heat up. And when you heat things up, right, they chip away, they release, and you're most exposed in your body when you're sweating, because you're taking these into your sweat, and your body is, blood vessels are open, and you start to take in whatever's in there, and you just don't know. And so I think the thing that most people don't, because it's your largest organ, but there's also you've heard of your microflora on your skin. Okay, it's the bacteria, right? Well, synthetic materials have a direct impact on reducing the microflora on your skin.
Okay. Lovely.
And so, which, is a protective layer for your skin. And so when you wear things that are not natural, it's working against your body, right? When you wear things like cotton, wool, linen, well, ever since humans have been around, we've had these on our bodies. Our bodies are built to work with these things. And so they work with our bodies. And the simple philosophy of HyperNatural is, let's just build performance and materials that work with your body, not against it, right? And there's all kinds of ways for working against it. But we're moving past just not having health negative effects of wearing plastic and just wearing natural. But we can actually start to wear things on our body that are health supportive and health positive. And where we're shifting is things like jadestone, while they cool the skin, they're great, but they're also known to reduce inflammation, increase blood circulation. Jade rollers that you use for your face, right, reduces inflammation. Been used in ancient Asian medicine for centuries. Chitin is a key ingredient in most beauty creams, because it's actually hydrative, helps heal, helps the skin. So there's a way to actually go into a health positive territory with what we wear on our skin with these biomaterials. And that's the place we're moving, because materials should not only not hurt you, but they should support you. They should actually help improve your performance, but also your health. And I see a world where our technology is, we have the ability to put zinc oxide into our fiber for sun protection. We have the ability to put magnesium into it. These are things that you want on your body. And so we're kind of moving into a territory of wearable wellness, not just health avoidance, but actually health positive materials.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We need more of you and more of these companies like tomorrow. Yeah. So thank you for doing that. But in the meantime, can we just maybe go back to that list of Blue Sign? Can you just list out the things that people may want to look for? Because HyperNatural right now is primarily performance for men. We've got a lot of women here. Yeah. We're going to share more about HyperNatural. We want to do that. Yeah. But what are those things that people should be looking for just as first level to know if it's safer or not?
Yeah. So here's the basics. Oeko-Tex 100, OEKO-TEX, is kind of the gold standard for chemically safe. Okay. And they test the final product. So it's not just testing the material, but not the buttons, or it's everything. And when you pass a product all the way through a supply chain, it touches and stops a lot of places. So they test the very end product to know that that's chemically safe from 100 of the most toxic chemicals. And they have other certifications. So if you look at HyperNatural, we're Oeko-Tex certified, gold standard. Blue Sign, as we mentioned earlier, BLUE, is a safe dye system for the colors and dyes that you use on textiles, which often is the most toxic, both in terms of the dyes they actually use being chemically safe, but also how the dyes are just discharged and where the waste goes when the process is done from a sustainability perspective, because dyes are very pollutive when they're released into the environment. So most of these things you want in a circular system that goes and reuses these things. And so Blue Sign assures that, which is very, you don't see it everywhere, but that's what it is. You'll hear GOTS, GOTS, which is a certification for chemically safe dyes, really just for cotton. So organic cotton is often GOTS certified. So you could not do a GOTS certified on polyester or nylon. You also couldn't do it on our fabrics because it's not a pure cotton. So some of these things are very specific to products, but they are kind of the gold standards to look for. And where you've seen people, if you ever seen shows like the Plastic Detox, or there's another one called, there's a really good book written called To Die For, which I highly recommend, is kind of the Bible on chemical risks in textiles.
To die for. Okay.
To Die For, DYE.
DYE. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice name. Yeah.
Alden Wicker, she's kind of the chemical maven for textiles. And there's just a lot of good information in there on the history of how the industry has been, to why it's so opaque today, the whole system. But the point is there are gold standards you could use to navigate this world. And so the Okotex, the Blue Sign, the GOTS are just good examples of, if you see those, you can at least rest assured that those are probably clean. Why don't most big companies use them? Well,
Expensive.
It could be the money, it could be just the inconvenience. Because this is a bit of an inconvenient truth when 70-80% of your business is synthetic, right? So
Sure.
I think a lot of these companies, and I'm not out to demonize the big brands, but I do think, like in food 30 years ago with organics, like in clean beauty in the last 15-20 years, materials, textiles is the last frontier in detoxification. Mm-hmm. And eventually, like you saw in food, your grocery store will have an organic section, right? You'll go into your clean beauty, Sephora, there'll be a clean beauty section. And eventually, I do think the brands are going to have to switch and have things that are certifiably clean, bio-based, not plastic. And it's really hard to do and very inconvenient. But the customer, as they know, well, they won't be able to unknow it, right? Yeah. And eventually, the consumer is the one that moves the market, and these brands will probably do the same, because the next Lululemon won't be made of plastic.
Yeah, I hope not. That's yeah. I do. I really think it's the last piece for biohackers. We have all the air filters, the water filters, the clean beauty, the non-toxic mattress, the organic sheets. But then we're wearing, and I'm guilty. I'm wearing Viore right now. I'm in Viore sweatpants, but I do have organic cotton underwear, so that's tough.
Well, the first thing I say to your audience is, don't feel guilty. Just feel empowered.
It's just the next thing to look at.
It's just the next thing to look for. I still have Cheetos from time to time, right? Like
that's your thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not about perfection. It's what do we consistently do? What's going to add up the most load over time?
Well, and that you can make better choices, right? Or you can decide, like, well, instead of buying 3 cheap t-shirts, I'm going to buy one good one. And that one I can wear for the next 2 to 3 years and not worry so much about. So I do think you can pick and choose. I don't think this is about throwing out your entire wardrobe. Sorry, Lauren, if you did. Because
there were things that needed to go. I went and pulled out my Mate the Label. I have both. These are Oikotex certified. Yeah. I have other things I can wear.
Those are fantastic brands. But, that we don't have in biomaterials, we don't have all the answers either. We don't have the perfect solution for Kudura or, outdoor, waterproof jackets. Unfortunately, they got PFAS. That's how they're waterproof. But there are,
right.
Eventually people will start to hopefully find other ways to trade and swap as you go. And so I think you start with your first layer, you start with your underwear, you start with the things on your body most of the time, things you're sweating in. Are
you going to get into underwear, like your company, or do you have a company that you would recommend for underwear? Because I agree. I think that's so important to start with.
Yeah, there's a lot of great choices out there. They're straight organic, right? You can go to. But yeah,
so organic cotton is pretty safe.
It should be, yeah. I would say merino is great too. There's some really good merino brands out there. They're going to seem a little more expensive, but they're really nice. Our technology is we make a fiber that we can combine with any yarn. So I can combine it with merino, cotton, or hemp, and we can make altogether new materials that are cooling and antibacterial. And so you're kind of making cotton better. You're making wool better. And so that's our fiber can do this. And so yes, we'll make women's probably next year. We're going to go into underwear soon, but we're also going to license, and we can show up in other partnerships too. So we could work with another brand and have HyperNatural, Vuori, or HyperNatural, Calvin Klein or Victoria's Secret. So I think all of this is possible where we're going, because it's a fiber technology is what we have patented. And that is our baseline. We just built our own products because there's no better way to get people's attention to have real products in the market at Nordstrom or online, because then it's real.
Yeah.
And so we did that for the sole purpose of proof, because people want to know, does it work? And so when people wear our shirts and they sweat through them, hang them up, and then they wear them again the next day and they don't smell, they're like, oh, well, this works, right? How does that work? I could take one t-shirt on a 5-day road trip to work out versus 5 that I want to burn at the end of the trip. So that's when people start to experience the actual benefits of it, or I don't sweat as much because I'm cooler. Then people start to understand that, oh, there is a third way. There are other things that can be done. And so we're just in the early stages of showing people that truth and knowing that there's a lot of applications for it. And we're anxious to do all the other things like sun protection and, things that help you sleep, because, we all know that, everybody needs comfort and thermal regulation. Like that's a very common need. You think about all the different places that people would want that. So we could do it with our own products, or we could do it through partnership.
Yeah.
Cool.
So both of our husbands have HyperNatural. So I was, nudging my husband this morning. What do you think? What do you think? He has 2 shirts, loves them. And I was trying to get even more feedback. I was like, okay, really, like, fashion has sold us this performance lie. Do you feel like you need all this, like, moisture wicking, all the things you listed before? And he was like, no, like, if it feels good and I don't smell, like, I'm happy. And he really loves it. And he, for a short period of time, was getting into that, like, leggings under the shorts thing. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, were you doing that for fashion or performance or what? He was like, no, I just want to make sure, like, my junk doesn't fall out at the gym. Right. He's like, it has nothing to do with the fabric. He's like, I'll wear something cleaner. I really will if it's available. So women's clothing may be a whole other thing, but the men in our lives are like, no, like, if it looks good, feels good, and I don't smell, we're good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And especially for golf, I think that's huge, because our husbands love to golf, and I don't know if there's a more toxic hobby out there. I'm not going to change what they're spraying on the turf or on the grass. I mean, that's pretty bad. He does wear non-toxic sunscreen, so that's good. So now he has a HyperNatural polo. So I'm like, that is the next step. And especially golf, I mean, they're sweating so much. Yeah. And hot, especially in Vegas.
We're in plastic for 18 holes doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
Oh, God. No, when you say it like that, it's terrible.
I think there's so many industries that are, you can't go to a pro shop and find anything that's 100% cotton, probably. It's really hard to find.
Yeah.
The same thing.
I went to one recently with my husband. He had to get, I forget what he was looking for golf. And I just was walking around and I was just feeling all the stuff. And it's just, nothing cotton.
So the good news is, again, I think it doesn't have to be that way. And most of this is about getting people to try it. So that's why we make our own products. I do think there is a big shift. I already am seeing it, even in the last 6 months, towards more natural fabrics and, solutions. So people are looking for this. But the thing that I'm hoping to prove out is that, you don't have to you don't have to choose between natural and performance. You can have both, and you can do it clean. And it exists. Like, these are things that exist. And then when people find that, they're like, well, can you do more? And the answer is absolutely. And so we think, right now people often say, oh, my leggings, my sports bra, like, I don't know what else to do. How do I find? I'm already finding other brands out there that are making plastic-free yoga leggings and bras. Like, they're happening. They're all small, and whether or not they're the same remains to be seen. But everybody's trying to solve it. Everybody's moving in a direction of, we can be a better alternative. And maybe they're still a little more expensive, but maybe it's worth it. In the end, it's cheaper than cancer, right? So
100%. But my fear is that people are going to try these things one time. Like, I've tried them a handful of times, and they don't fit great. The stylers are like not quite so cute, or there's something that's like just not quite there. And I'm afraid that people will try it once and say, oh, not for me, I'll never do it again. Where we want people to be like, okay, the industry is moving. It's not perfect yet, but can we keep choosing these things and support these brands? I think that's kind of a scary place to be, somewhere in the middle where people are starting to try and not satisfied.
Yep. So you hit the nail on the head. You can have the best idea in the world, but if it doesn't fit right, feel good, and it's not something that you can use a lot of different ways, like I can use it here, here, and here, it won't be commercial. Mm-mm. And a lot of sustainable products, unfortunately, falling into this trap is just buy it for the right reasons, but you're like, yeah, but it doesn't, it doesn't have what I'm looking for. So you have to deliver on those things. Job one, as a brand. Job two is you have to deliver something that is a more compelling, better for you value proposition, right? Mm-hmm. Certified clean, it works, and once you do that, off you go. And so what happened even in our business recently is I've done this a long time, so I knew that those things needed to be in place when we launched ours, and we were very maniacal about fit and quality, knowing that nobody would care if it didn't fit right. Nobody would care if it didn't feel good. But when it feels good, fits right, and you can wear it for 10 days in a row, then people are like, oh, this is a new territory, mm-hmm. right? If it fits good, feels right, I can wear it in 10 days in a row, and I know it's not undermining my health, and it's not creating toxic load, then I'm in. What else do you got, right? And that's how we're building our business, is that you get really good at a few things, and then you build a platform, and then you find ways to expand with quality partners, but you also deliver quality products. And so women's is next, and I'm anxious to hear from you.
We're waiting. Come on.
Yeah. Tell me what it needs to be, because
I'll tell you.
We're literally in the R&D stage of it now, and we're raising money just to launch women's specifically.
One thing I cannot find of all these clean brands, like I love Made the Label. I've bought the most stuff from them. Biker shorts that are not like halfway down my thigh. My husband hates these long biker shorts so much. He's like,
mine too.
Why are all these women wearing these long? It's like a trendy thing. He's like, I want to see your legs. I want to like almost be able to see your butt. And they do not exist. So if you can make a biker short that is clean, tight, I can wear it to yoga, work out, and my husband, and apparently Renee's husband, will be very happy.
And me, I like those shorts, but the shorts I have right now, I think they're from Aloe, but they're the only ones that are the right length. They look good. They feel good.
They do the 3-4 inch. Yeah. Made the Label does like a 7-inch. I'm like, nope, it's too long.
Those are like leggings almost. Yeah.
All right.
It's too long.
Consider it done.
Yeah. And I think, and sports bra, I think that's the next thing I really have to go after. Because like you were saying, you're obviously sweating a lot there. It's also very tight and restrictive around your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like the colors, like I understand that we have to be a little more judicious with colors because of dyes. Like Made the Label doesn't have something that's bright white. They have this bone color. And I'm like, okay, maybe bright white just is not something I'm supposed to wear. Yeah. This is a natural fiber. I think we just have to accept certain things. So like the neons, I don't know, maybe once in a while, but I think just accepting more natural colors into our life, maybe, unless Blue Sign is something that can solve for that. You can tell us.
Well, there's more options than you realize. And this is where I think, again, there's no perfection in any of this. And I love when I get comments where we're like, well, what about this? I can't go on ultra marathon in cotton. It's like, well, okay, maybe not, but most people aren't.
Right. And how many marathons are you going to run?
Right. And at the end of the day, that might be what you do on that day, but maybe you train in cotton. Maybe you have a nice looking color that you just like because it makes you feel like it's new in spring, right? Or, so again, like I eat Cheetos sometimes, right? Because it's just, I want to live a little. But I would tell you that if you get it right most of the time, if you look at it through the hours and the number of wears of something, I do think you're going to be fine. I really do think you're going to be fine. And it's just a matter of being aware so you can make better choices, align yourself with brands who are transparent, brands who care. Because the minute a little brand gets sold to a big company, you know what happens, right? They put all the additives in and they cut corners and do all these things, and cost becomes the underlying challenge of quality and health. And so who you trust, how do you verify it? That's a big part of this. But don't look for perfection, because the system is not going to be perfect. The only thing that's perfect is the problem. The problem is really challenging from a system standpoint, from an industry standpoint. And again, the only way to really move it to a better place is through the consumers who want it to be clean and safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We got to demand it. This reminds me kind of a lot of where clean makeup was 10 years ago, where you either had blackberry juice as your mascara, or you had toxic L'Oreal mascara. There was like nothing in between. You had to choose. And now we have so many options in the middle, right? And I think clothing, we're seeing the same thing, which is really exciting. So, well, thank you for all that you're doing. I mean, with the research and development, we are so excited. We're going to be first in line for the female clothing.
Underwear and biker shorts. Yeah.
All right.
Can I ask another question?
And then sports bra.
I do want to ask one more question, because it came up a few times. You mentioned the environment. There's another marketing term that I think is kind of hooking people in the wrong way. This recycled, people think that recycled is better, and maybe it's better for the environment, but it's worse for our bodies. Is that what? Just curious about your comments on the word recycled.
It's a great question.
Selling people.
Thank you for asking it. The recycled is not a solution for recycled polyester, recycled spandex. All that is just delaying it going back into the system. But unfortunately, most of the recycled products are coming from virgin materials anyway. So recycled polyester, unfortunately, mostly is coming from water bottles made to get recycled. So unfortunately, it's not the real solution. Bio-based is better because at least it's biodegradable for the most part, or it's coming from natural sources, but it isn't perfect either. And but recycled, unfortunately, has become a crutch as a badge of sustainability. And it really, at the end of the day, it's not going to really do the job when it comes to reducing total consumption and biodegradability. So, and then at the end of the day, it's still plastic on your body. Even if it's recycled.
But it's this guilt trip of don't you want to protect the environment? It's what about me? It's I got to put my oxygen mask on first. I got to take care of this body. And you said there's a solution. There's a regenerative option that supports the whole cycle.
Yeah. And so, I think sustainability ultimately is going to win, because people are going to care about their health and wellness, because they're kind of the same thing. If it's good for you, it's going to be okay for the environment for the most part. And so I think the idea that, often the quote I hear from people is I knew polyester was bad for the environment, but I didn't know it was bad for me. And now it's now I care. Now I don't want it. Right. And so I do think that's the win-win here, is that as we all start shifting to more bio-based, natural and certifiable textiles and brands, things should become more sustainable.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that about the recycling. That's wild.
I'm seeing it everywhere. It's this new marketing, because they probably think that they're losing people because people are waking up. So then they're well, let's put this word recycled, which seems green and healthy. And it's a safe word.
It's the word natural 10 years ago, where if it said natural, it must be good. Then we're wow, that doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah. I think just being in this industry for so long, I would tell you that the cheat code is sustainability is a marketing initiative. It is not most often a product initiative. And it really, to be sustainable, it needs to be a product initiative, and it needs to start at the lowest levels, which is where you grow it, where you source it, how you make it, is where most of the impact is. It's not in the last marketing hang tag you put on it. And so that's the unfortunate truth, is that it's much easier to make it a marketing initiative than it is a product one. In our case, we built the whole company on it, right? So it's the only thing we do. but most people can't do that if it's already a big business. So it becomes often, well, let's just talk about this, but not that. And it just, that unfortunately is the common playbook.
Yeah, hard for Lululemon to backtrack at this point, unfortunately. Until you come in with your fiber technology. I'm very excited.
Can you imagine if they had like little tags on them? Like, you know how you see now, a lot of supplements will say, you know, in the state of California, this contains whatever, blah, blah, blah. Can you imagine if like the tags at Lululemon said, you know, this does contain this carcinogen?
Right in the butt crack too, you know, right where people are looking.
California passed, I can't remember what prop it was, but it was something around that level of transparency on products. But they never took it all the way down to apparel and textiles. So it's just certain categories. And there's a reason for
like
that.
Supplements and food and stuff, right? But nothing more.
So there's exceptions, and apparel is one of them, because if they literally told you what was in it, has this percentage of this and this contains these chemicals, well, people would really think differently about that purchase, right? So it's just easier to stay opaque. And that's the thing with our industry, is that it's notoriously opaque, and the system is so hardwired for cost that it can't really shift so easily to cleaner and better.
Yeah. Until people start, you know, revealing and calling people out. Like it's happening with these major grocery stores now, Trader Joe's, Sprouts, you know, people are calling them out, and you can't unsee that, like you said before. So, thank you so much for all that you're doing. Is there anything else about HyperNatural you want to share? Can you tell our audience like what the offers are? Like our husbands are definitely bought in, and we're so happy that there's something for men, because I think there has been so much for females, but
well, you know, listen, we sell directly online, hypernaturalstyle.com, and we're also at Nordstrom. We sell now men's shirts, but we're right now doing a funding round so that we can launch women's and underwear in the next, 18 to 24 months. And we're small and scrappy, but we have our patents are just about complete. And so, we're just trying to get out there right now, let people know that there is a better third way, and you can actually have wearable wellness without toxic chemicals and, other things that you can't even pronounce.
Yeah. Wearable wellness. I love that so much. Wearable wellness. Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the show notes so people can go shopping, check you out on Instagram, TikTok, for some more information. But yeah, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We're so grateful that you and your team reached out to us. This has been great.
Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Lauren. This has been fun.
Yeah. Any parting words of wisdom you want to share with our audience, like something they could maybe just do today to optimize their life?
Take a hard look at your closet and just look at the labels. Just look at them. Just really ask yourself. And if you don't know what that is, Google it or ask your chat GPT what it really is, and just start to pay attention of what's on your body. And then when you start to remove synthetics from your body and start wearing natural, also notice how that feels. And then after about a month, put back the synthetics on and see if you get the crawly skin feel, because your body will adjust to not wearing it, and it will start to tell you what it likes and what it doesn't like if you listen to it. So check your labels, give it a shot. Your skin will tell you what it likes and what it doesn't.
I love that. It's like a food sensitivity test, right? Like an elimination diet. You eliminate something, add it back in, your body's going to tell you. Why would we not do the same with clothing? I love that.
Yeah.
I guess we get so used to wearing it every day. Yeah. I kind of just want to like move to the mountains and live in organic cotton. Or just be naked more often. I don't know.
Well, I'll send you some HyperNatural bike shorts when ready, so you won't have to move. So.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
Yeah. No, remember he said there's another way.
There is another way.
We don't have to go out to pasture.
To pasture. I mean,
and the last thing I'll do is like a lot of these things have existed for a while, like over 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's just about bringing them to the market, teaching people about it, experiencing something that's different, embracing the pros and the cons, but ultimately understanding the benefits for you. That's the world we're living in now. And I'm excited by it because it's not all doom and gloom. It's just like, it's an opportunity to change. And I do think the shift is real. And that's what we're building our whole business on, is that we can do it on our own brand platform, but we can also do it with other brands, which you reach more people more quickly, which is what our whole goal is just to get a better option out there as fast as possible. So people don't have to move to the mountains or don't have to feel guilty about, doing hot yoga or, sleeping in polyester. So
Yeah.
it's at our doorstep.
Yeah. We're excited. Thank you so much.
I still want to move to the mountains, though. I'm just,
she was looking for an excuse. Don't solve the problem for her.
All right.
Just kidding.
Anyway, so good talking with you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much,
thank
Chris.
you.
All
And
right,
thanks to everyone that tuned in. We will see you next time.
Okay, let me know if you guys need anything